Looking back now, I can't believe I actually did it.
I'm strong, and you made me even stronger.
You die and go to hell. I hope you rot.
Peyton Gendron.
The outpouring of emotion over that carefully planned massacre. Peyton Gendron drove more than 200 miles to that black community wearing body armor and live streaming the attack.
Peyton Gendron, the perpetrator of the 2022 racially motivated mass shooting in Buffalo, New York, faced his sentencing with a courtroom packed with victims' families and community members. Gendron, a self-professed white supremacist, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for killing 10 black individuals in a premeditated attack. The life sentence was the culmination of a trial that exposed his chilling ideology and deliberate planning. Upon hearing the verdict, Gendron appeared emotionless, his lack of visible remorse highlighting the calculated and detached nature of his crime. However, when confronted by victims' families during the sentencing hearing, Gendron briefly apologized, a move seen by many as hollow and insincere.
A spectator lunging at Peyton Gendron, deputies rushing him out of the courtroom. His sentencing hearing paused until order was restored.
I understand the anger, but we cannot have that in the courtroom.
The dramatic interruption coming as the sister of 72-year-old victim Catherine Massey pointedly addressed the shooter.
Cat didn't hurt anybody. That ain't fair to did. You gonna come to our city and decide you don't like black people. Man, you don't know a damn thing about black people. We're human.
9 months after Gendron opened fire at the Tops supermarket in a well-planned attack, the emotional wounds are still raw for Wayne Jones, remembering his 65-year-old mother, Celestine Cheney.
While I was writing this, tears fell from my eyes. Thinking about what a beautiful person you took.
And with Gendron watching passively in an orange jumpsuit, the widow of top security guard, 55-year-old Aaron Salter, who was hailed a hero for facing down the shooter, explaining why she wore red and black.
Red for the blood that he shed for his family and for his community.
The courtroom atmosphere was tense, especially when one family member attempted to rush at Gendron during their victim impact statement. While the confrontation was quickly diffused, it underscored the deep anguish and anger his actions had caused. Gendron's adherence to racist beliefs, evident in his manifesto and attack, served as a stark reminder of the ongoing threat posed by white supremacy. His sentencing marked a significant moment in the fight against racial violence, but for the families, it was only a small measure of justice for an irreparable loss.
I'm very sorry for stealing the lives of your loved ones. I cannot express how much I regret all the decisions I made leading up to my actions on May 14th. I did a terrible thing that day. I shot and killed people because they were black. Looking back now, I can't believe I actually did it.
As Gendron begins his life sentence in prison, he will likely face challenges as a high-profile offender with a history of racial hatred. For the victims' families, his incarceration represents an opportunity for reflection and healing, even if it cannot undo the damage. Gendron's case, like others involving racially motivated violence, serves as a call to address the systemic roots of white supremacy and hate in society. His life sentence is not only a punishment, but also a symbol of the justice system's commitment to holding individuals accountable for acts of terror driven by prejudice. Benton Beyer.
Benton Beyer was stalked and harassed this Robbinsdale family from Robbinsdale, and he harassed his Cold Spring family. He also caused his truck to crash into their home.
Benton Byer, a self-identified white supremacist, made national headlines for his role in racially motivated violence and his subsequent sentencing to life in prison. Byer was convicted of a brutal assault that left a black man severely injured, a crime that prosecutors argued was explicitly motivated by racial hatred. Throughout his trial, Byer exhibited little remorse, maintaining his adherence to white nationalist ideology. When the life sentence was handed down, Byer showed no outward reaction, maintaining a stoic demeanor that contrasted sharply with the emotional statements from the victim's family. His lack of visible regret underscored the depth of his extremist beliefs, which had motivated his actions.
You did not destroy a home. You destroyed a family.
The sentencing hearing painted a grim picture of the impact of Byer's actions. The victim's family described the trauma, pain, and fear they experienced as a result of the assault, emphasizing how the attack was not just a physical act of violence, but an attempt to dehumanize and terrorize based on race. Despite the family's powerful statements, Byer refused to acknowledge his culpability, instead remaining silent and indifferent. This attitude reflected the deep-seated hatred that defined his actions and served as a reminder of the enduring presence of racial violence in modern society.
The house I once called home now resembles the shell of a life that once was, and a family that's forever changed. The place we once called home will be emptied of its contents and sold.
For Byer, the life sentence meant permanent removal from society, a consequence that many felt was not only deserved but necessary. Prosecutors argued that his extremist beliefs made him a continuing danger, both inside and outside prison walls. The courtroom proceedings highlighted the role of white supremacist ideologies in perpetuating violence and the need for accountability in such cases. While his sentencing provided a sense of closure for some, it also served as a reminder of the broader societal challenges in confronting and dismantling systems of hate. Brenton Tarrant.
He is a loner, a big fat loser, a coward and a pathetic human being. Takbir! 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 Thank you.
Your father was a garbage man, and you became trash of society.
Brenton Tarrant, the Australian man responsible for the Christchurch mosque shootings in New Zealand in 2019, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for his horrific attack that left 51 worshippers dead and dozens injured. Tarrant, a self-proclaimed white supremacist, live-streamed his assault and published a manifesto filled with racist and xenophobic rhetoric. The sentencing marked the end of a trial that exposed the scale and premeditation of his crimes, with survivors and families of victims delivering powerful impact statements in court. Tarrant's reaction to the life sentence was largely subdued, though he attempted to portray himself as unrepentant, refusing to challenge the sentence or offer any apology.
He is ashamed of your identity. You deserve to be buried in a landfill. And my 71-year-old dad would have broke you in half if you challenged him to a fight. But you are weak. A sheep with a wolf's jacket on for only 10 minutes of your whole life. I'm strong, and you made me even stronger.
During the sentencing hearing, Tarrant's lack of remorse stood in stark contrast to the emotional testimony from survivors and victims' families. Many recounted the devastating loss of loved ones and the long-term physical and psychological trauma they endured. Tarrant's ideology and actions were described as an affront to humanity, and the courtroom became a space for collective grief and resilience. The judge, in delivering the sentence, emphasized that Tarrant's crimes were so heinous and calculated that they warranted the harshest punishment possible under New Zealand law.
The last words I'll hear from Sire, for now, were cuddle me. Oh, how I regret not doing that. The last time I saw him alive, when he left for school, that fateful morning. I love you, Sire, my angel.
My father, the apple of our eyes, Abdel Fattah Qasim. I wonder if he was in pain, if he was frightened, and what his final thoughts were.
Tarrant's life sentence without parole ensured that he would spend the rest of his days in isolation, unable to influence or inspire others with his extremist ideology. For many, this outcome was seen as a victory against white supremacy and a statement of New Zealand's commitment to protecting its diverse communities. However, the case also served as a reminder of the dangers of radicalization, particularly in the digital age. While Tarrant will never walk free again, the pain and loss he caused will forever shape the lives of those affected and the broader Muslim community. William Melendez.
Beating video, and for him being seen in that video beating Floyd Dent last January. Melendez said Dent had rolled through a stop sign and that's why he pulled him over.
William Melendez, a former police officer convicted of a racially charged assault, received a life sentence for his brutal beating of an unarmed black man during a traffic stop. The case drew national attention due to its shocking display of abuse of power and its ties to racial violence. Melendez, who was also found to have connections to white supremacist groups, maintained his innocence throughout the trial, dismissing accusations of racial motivation. When the life sentence was announced, Melendez displayed visible frustration, shaking his head and muttering under his breath, a stark contrast to the relief expressed by the victim's family.
I am truly sorry that you believe my actions were unjust. Please have faith in your law enforcement officers, for many of them would risk their life for yours.
During the trial, prosecutors presented damning evidence linking Melendez's actions to a broader pattern of racially motivated behavior. The victim's testimony, coupled with graphic footage of the assault, painted a harrowing picture of the attack. The courtroom heard emotional accounts of the lasting physical and psychological scars inflicted by Melendez's actions. Despite this, Melendez remained defiant, refusing to acknowledge the racial underpinnings of his crime or express genuine remorse. The life sentence served as a powerful statement against racially motivated police violence and the systemic racism it often represents. For the victim and their family, the verdict offered a measure of justice, though the pain of the incident could never be fully erased. Melendez's case became a rallying point for activists pushing for greater accountability within law enforcement and a reckoning with the presence of white supremacy in institutions of power. As Melendez begins his life sentence, his fall from grace stands as a stark warning to others who would abuse their positions of authority to perpetuate hate and violence. Jeremy Christian.
And to Mr. Jeremy Christian, your mom should have swallowed you. You are a waste of breath. And when you die and go to hell, I hope you rot.
See you there, bitch.
Now, hey.
Go back to Tennessee, too.
What do I tell you?
Go back to Tennessee, too.
We
don't want you here.
Jeremy Christian, convicted of the 2017 stabbings on a Portland train that left 2 men dead and another injured, received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Christian, a self-identified white supremacist, had been harassing 2 young women of color on the train before 3 bystanders intervened, prompting his violent attack. During his trial, Christian's outbursts and lack of remorse shocked observers, as he used the courtroom as a platform to espouse his hateful rhetoric. When the life sentence was handed down, Christian smirked and mocked the proceedings, further illustrating his contempt for both the victims and the justice system.
Here, all your race-baiting bullshit. You ain't gonna be mayor either, bitch. You ain't
The sentencing hearing was a powerful moment for the victims' families and the survivors, who shared emotional impact statements about the lasting trauma caused by Christian's actions. The courtroom became a space for collective mourning and defiance against hate, with many expressing hope that Christian's sentencing would serve as a deterrent for others motivated by white supremacy and hate. Despite their pain, the victims' families and survivors spoke of the courage and sacrifice of those who stood up to Christian's aggression, emphasizing that their actions represented the best of humanity in the face of the worst. Christian, however, remained unapologetic, his demeanor reflecting his unwavering commitment to his hateful ideology. Christian's life sentence ensured he would never be free to act on his violent beliefs again, a decision that was met with relief by the victims' families and the broader community. For many, the sentence represented a rejection of the hate and division Christian sought to spread. However, it also underscored the urgent need to address the root causes of extremist violence, including the role of online radicalization and the normalization of hate speech in public discourse. Russell Courtier.
During today's hearing, but the victim's family believes it was all for show. The judge says he was driven by hate and anger when he ran over and killed Larnell Bruce in August of 2016.
Russell Courtier, a known member of a white supremacist gang, was sentenced to life in prison for the 2016 killing of Larnell Bruce, a black teenager in Gresham, Oregon. The crime, in which Courtier used his Jeep to deliberately run over Bruce following a racially charged altercation, was widely condemned as a hate crime. Courtier's trial revealed his deep ties to white supremacist ideologies, which prosecutors argued had directly influenced his actions. When the life sentence was handed down, Courtier appeared emotionless, offering no apology or acknowledgement of the harm he had caused. The sentencing hearing was a powerful moment for Bruce's family, who spoke of the young man's bright future and the immense pain caused by his senseless murder. They described the killing as a stark reminder of the dangers black individuals face in a society where racism and hate persist. Courtier, however, remained silent throughout their statements, a stark indication of his lack of remorse and his allegiance to the ideology that had led to Bruce's death.
You don't think it was racially motivated?
It was not racially motivated. Rusty probably didn't even think about that the whole time. He's never been racist. We have, like I said, I have a friend that I've known for like 35 years. Her family is black and white mix, and they call her Aunt Betty. She's black. You know, both my sons call her Aunt Betty. We had a black guy across from us. Rusty immediately, when he got a brand new motorcycle, over there helping him, you know. They were, no, he's never showed any. We have Asian friends, we have all kinds of. Being in prison when he was 22 years old. He got in a bar fight. They put him in prison for 7 years, Measure 11. That's where he got into the EK. Like I tell people, he's been home, there's no EK at our house.
Courtier's life sentence was hailed as a victory for justice, but it also highlighted systemic issues surrounding hate crimes and the ongoing influence of white supremacist gangs in the U.S. For the family of Larnell Bruce, the verdict was a step toward healing, though it could never replace the life that had been lost. The case served as a grim reminder of the intersection of individual hatred and organized extremism, emphasizing the need for stronger measures to combat such ideologies and protect vulnerable communities. Michael Amantulo, a white supremacist convicted of a racially motivated murder, received a life sentence for his brutal crime. Amantulo's attack, which involved the fatal beating of a black man in a public park, was described by prosecutors as a hate-fueled act of terror. Throughout his trial, Amantulo showed no remorse, instead using his time in court to espouse racist views and justify his actions. His sentencing was met with mixed emotions, relief that he would no longer pose a threat, but frustration at his lack of accountability or regret. At the sentencing hearing, the victim's family gave heart-wrenching statements about the impact of the loss, describing how Amantulo's actions had devastated their lives. They called for justice not only for their loved one, but for all who have suffered at the hands of racial violence. Despite the emotional testimony, Amantulo remained indifferent, his behavior underscoring the depth of his hatred and lack of humanity. The life sentence marked a significant moment in holding white supremacists accountable for their crimes. However, Amantulo's case also exposed flaws in addressing the spread of hate-driven ideologies. Experts argued that stronger intervention and education are necessary to prevent individuals from adopting such beliefs. For the victim's family, the sentence offered some closure, but the loss they suffered remains an irreplaceable void. Amantulo's incarceration ensures he can no longer harm others, but his case serves as a reminder of the ongoing fight against racism and extremism in all forms.